Pokemon will go downhill if we become complacent and go with the flow, says CEO, who hopes the series could last another 70 years. Will it make it to its 100th anniversary? So, this is an article I wanted to go ahead and talk about, especially with, what I mean, Pokemon kind of, having its Pokemon Day the other day and everything like that, and hearing some of this information. So I've made it clear that when it comes down to Pokemon, I'm more of a Gen 1, Gen 2, and then Gen 3. I think Gen 3 was when I kind of stepped away from Pokemon, getting into it as much as I did. So as far as, my take on it, I'm not really one of the people that can say wholeheartedly how things are going in more recent times as far as like the video games and just the franchise as a whole. So it is one of those things. From what I've heard, though, I have heard listened to a lot of people that are fans of the franchise and some of the complaints that they have when it comes down to the games and everything like that, especially with me following the Power World and Pokemon lawsuit. There is a lot of comments I'll get from fans and everything like that in my comment section, as well as people that I know personally that are fans of the Pokemon franchise still, that mentioned some of the issues that goes along with the IP and everything like that. And hearing the CEO make comments like, if we become complacent and go with the flow, then that'll be kind of Pokemon's downfall. And it's just ironic, you know what I mean, considering that they've had some controversies like kind of lately in regards to stuff like Pokemon Go kind of changing the female body types and everything like that, and making these weird kind of changes kind of in that type of direction. So for me, I feel like that type of stuff, making those types of changes was them kind of becoming complacent, which is something that I feel like has been a negative from people with them. And going with the flow, that's another thing I've heard a lot of fans talk about, in the sense that, like, from what I've heard, they've really, what it seems, dumbed down a lot of the ways that Pokemon is played as a franchise, in the sense that, like, they've made things easier in as far as the games go and everything like that. Like, for me personally, I wanted to pick up Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee um not too long ago, and I had talked to a buddy of mine, and he had kind of mentioned to me that, like, yeah, it is kind of like the Pokemon Yellow games from back in the day, but they made it so easy that it's not challenging at all. And hearing that kind of turned me off a little bit to going and purchasing the game to check it out and see what it is. Because I still have actually my Pokemon Yellow, and I love playing that game. It's such a fun game to me. So one of the things I know is that it is really challenging, and there are times where it can get really difficult. But even when I was younger, you know what I mean, like 5 or 6 years old, and as I got older, it those challenges are things that you can kind of get into and kind of appreciate later on. So hearing that they are making these types of changes, they are doing a lot of stuff that is kind of keeping complacency, as well as making it so that it does kind of go with the flow. It is ironic to hear the CEO mentioning that, but yeah, there's more to it, and we'll go ahead and check it out here in this article right here. So it's Pokemon Day, which means we have a Pokemon Presents coming up, and the CEO of the Pokemon Company shares some thoughts about what makes the franchise so special. Pokemon is the only thing we do at the Pokemon Company, CEO Tutsunikazu Ishihara, so if I pronounced that wrong, I apologize, tells the BBC. It's a private company, which means it doesn't have any shareholders to appease with dividends or rising stock prices. Whatever profits we make from Pokemon gets reinvested in Pokemon. And that is kind of a good thing that they have that type of, system working for them, and they have that mindset when it comes down to the Pokemon Company. But at the same time, it is one of those things where it's like, well, if that's the case, then just focus on making stuff that the players like. When they're making changes to, like, the body types and like Pokemon Go and stuff like that, I think that's really weird, because it feels like they're trying to appease individuals that aren't gonna really care about the franchise that much, more so than fans that just want to have a good game that's enjoyable to play, kind of a thing. And it's just, it feels like, even though they don't have shareholders to appease and everything like that, it does feel like they're still kind of being strongholded by individuals out there to try to make it what they want it to be, which is kind of ironic of them kind of making this statement. So Pokemon has been going strong for almost 30 years, and Ishihara believes it can keep going for far longer. If we continue focusing on our mission, Pokemon can probably continue in its 50th or 100th anniversary, will go bust when Pokemon is no longer popular. So, being able to get to their 50th anniversary, I feel like that is a possibility. 100th anniversary, I feel like they got to make sure that they're really keeping up and doing good things in that time frame, kind of a thing. Because with some of the characters that they've decided to create, I've mentioned it, I think, in my the Legends A to Z video I did, where you start seeing some Pokemon that are like, one I seen was like a phone. There's some that I've seen in the past. One is like a chandelier. I've seen one that's ice cream. I think there's another one that's like a trash can. Stuff like that is just, it's really weird when you start going in that direction. And I feel like with how many different types of animals, insects, and stuff like that that we have in our regular day-to-day world, you can kind of make some things kind of in that regard. It would just work out really well. Because I mean, for me, Pokemon, like I said, since I was the earlier gens, was always one of those things where it was pretty much animals and insects that is what Pokemon were based off of. So when you start doing it on like inanimate objects in like your everyday house kind of a thing, I feel like that at that point it gets really fucking weird. Especially, how we can other go towards other things like mythological creatures or like ghosts and stuff like that. Like I feel like there's so much more to go off of versus making a like a Pokemon that looks like a TV. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, it's a desk. Like it's just it's weird. So 50 years of Pokemon doesn't seem far fetched. See what I did there? At all. After 29 years, it seems like the franchise is still figuring out new ways to engage audiences with shows like Pokemon Concierge and games like TCG Pocket. And that is one of the good things, is that they are trying to do different things with the franchise to kind of keep it going fresh and everything like that. But yeah, you gotta, and I feel like with the TCG Pocket, that has been working well from what it seems like. And then the Pokemon show, I mean, like I said, I stopped watching the shows a long time ago. So hopefully that is something that'll kind of keep people engaged and kind of keep their interest when it comes down to being able to watch it in that regard. So this is essential because if we become complacent and go with the flow, that's when Pokemon will go downhill, says Ishihara. Pokemon has always found new ways to integrate new hardwares into the games, from the touchpad of the DS and turning your console upside down to evolve in K to AR in Pokemon Go. 100 years may be more difficult though. Who knows what gaming will look like then? We might look back at today's AR like we look back at the NES. There's no telling what Pokemon will look like 100 years in the future. Maybe they'll be like Digimon and have more weapons. And hearing stuff like that, I feel like is really ironic considering that they're in a lawsuit when it comes down to Power World as far as Pokemon having weapons. So, I mean, obviously they're probably not going to be going in the direction of like Pokemon's having guns and stuff like that. But for them to be making comments like that, especially with them suing over game mechanics, is just a little bit weird in my opinion. But as far as the franchise goes, like I feel like yeah, you are gonna have to come up with new ideas and stuff like that, but you gotta keep Pokemon true to what it's always originally been, which is you capturing these creatures and having them battle against each other. And, obviously that can get stale after a while here and there if you're not able to really work into it well. But I feel like with how much lore there is behind Pokemon, all the different types of creatures there are and all that type of stuff, I feel like there is potential for it to keep going if they're smart about what they do. Now, like I've stated, I've heard a lot of people talk about it, fans of the franchise, that they don't really go that direction. They do kind of keep a lot of complacency and they do kind of just go with the flow. So it is ironic hearing the CEO make these types of comments, because it is something where he's like, "Oh, if we do this, it's going to be our downfall," while simultaneously actually doing some of the stuff that they mentioned. So it's a weird one. And I like I said, I love Pokemon. I've grew up with Pokemon, so I wouldn't want to see it fall or go under. But yeah, I feel like they really do have to start making some better changes, which is why I personally was kind of happy when Power World came out, because it was some competition for them that really is going to have to force them to do better and to make something, that people are going to actually enjoy. more so than just kind of being able to just go off of the coattails of having all these older fans and just kind of be like, well, that's, we have our fan base and we're going to be able to just have them be complacent with what we have. It's like, no, you guys got to keep growing and you guys got to have some good competition to make sure that you guys keep growing. And then one of the things I wanted to read as well was one of this comments here from this person, Erica Diaz. So I thought this was actually interesting. So they put, what? This is a hilarious statement. They've been doing the same thing for years and refuse to acknowledge that a huge portion of their fans are people like me who played the Game Boy games and watched the original Pokemon anime in the 90s and early 2000s. They flat out refuse to evolve the series at all. And this is, like I said, this is a lot of arguments that I've been hearing when it comes down to, some personal friends, people online on, some of the videos that I've done in regards to them in Power World. So yeah, it's a weird one, man, because of the fact that, like I said, they're making these comments like this is gonna be our downfall if we do this, while simultaneously doing what they're saying is gonna be their downfall. But who knows? At least they're kind of looking at it from that perspective. So hopefully they do have that mindset of like, we do got to make some changes. We do got to actually build on this IP and this franchise in a way that can help it build so that we can keep this thing going for as long as possible. So who knows? Hopefully, with the new games coming out and everything like that, it'll kind of have them stepping in the right direction, especially with, games like Legends Z through A. I've stated in that video as well that hopefully that'll be a game that players like, they can go ahead and enjoy a lot. And if not, at least give some feedback on what they feel can actually be done to make the franchise better and the series better. So again, per usual, it's like one of those things for me where it's like only time will tell. We'll have to see what the future holds for these IPs and these game franchises, but hopefully it'll be a good thing and hopefully it'll be something that can actually do well for the franchise as a whole. So those are my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Any Pokemon fans out there, do you guys feel like this statement is just kind of them talking into the wind, or do you guys have hopes that this is going to be something that can help push the franchise into a better direction? So if you guys can let me know your thoughts in the comments, if you guys could like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you guys have been watching this long, I really appreciate it. It means a lot. And yeah, until next time, Harmonic out. Peace.